Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Did you miss me?
I was just say, who are you? I don't know if
I
I
don't
know
know.
you or not. You know, both of us
That's
been
true.
going so many different directions.
Absolutely. Again, thank you to Eric Watkins for
Yes, sir.
jumping in my spot last week while I was calling some Lewiston baseball. They split those two games, and then things just has not gone well for them.
Ew.
And actually, they did not split. They did get swept in that.
Yeah,
I was trying to be positive, and it was not. It's not been a positive time, I think, for Lewis and baseball. We'll talk about that in the second hour. But some bright spots maybe in their future. We will see. How's it going? How you been?
I don't know, man. It's been good. Been a busy week as had to do some work out of town, so it's been interesting. Not hardly any sports watching over the last few days. Tried to
Well,
play
that's going to
catch
make
up.
things difficult for you.
Tried
here.
to, yeah, I tried to play catch up. Tried to watch a little highlights of golf. Some bad news. Yeah, I watched. Tried to play catch up, watching a little golf after my meetings each
That
night.
was the incorrect sport to watch.
Yeah,
I mean, this week.
well,
no offense to golf, but there was a lot of things going on this week, and golf was like ranked 38th in
yeah,
my
and I didn't
care
get
list.
to watch any NASCAR. Didn't watch. I watched highlights
Mhm.
of your Hawthorne Hawks and my Geelong
There's
Cats.
no highlights than that.
And
well, the good highlights if you turn the video off 3/4 of the way through.
yeah, I mean,
talk about
so it'll be interesting. So lots of things have happened. So trying to
Yes.
catch up, reading on them to
Yes.
you know that's the tough part. But
Yes. A lot is going on. NBA and NHL playoffs have gotten started.
who cares?
I kind of do. I've got all of a sudden, I refuse to watch a full game, but there have been 4 different games that I have turned on in the fourth quarter and then got into, partially because the Sacramento crowd is ridiculously fantastic and I love them. They are taking on Golden State. We will talk about what happened in yesterday's game with one Draymond Green, but that Sacramento crowd is a lot of fun and they got me invested in that game. I will say that. Now, of course, they head to Golden State, and Golden State's fans are good too. But I watched a bit of a couple of games throughout the first round of the NBA playoffs. NHL started yesterday. The Kraken gets started in about an hour, so I might check out some of that game when we get done here. But I've always said that the NBA regular season does not matter, and it continues to be proven correct. Is now teams that are down in like the 8 seed and 7 seed, the Lakers are a 7 seed, and they won handily in their game because the regular season did not matter to them.
Was it your comment? I want to say it was your comment to Robert Taylor's post yesterday that I saw.
Yeah, the regular season means nothing.
Nothing anymore.
Too many teams make the postseason, and not only is the regular season really long in basketball, the playoffs are insanely long. These won't get done till July.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It's April, and they're not going to get done till July is when the NBA playoffs is going to get done. It's insane. So why should I care when the players don't care? And now I will start watching a little bit, and we'll see where they go. Plus, they play defense in the playoffs. There were multiple teams that scored under 100 in the first couple games in the postseason. Eric Watkins made sure to point that out to me. So NBA playoffs are a little bit different, and we will see where that goes. It's not going to lead the show,
no,
by any means, but we will talk a little bit more about it. Speaking of the show, just some show notes for you to finish off the month of April, as once again, baseball likes to cause havoc on our runtime. Next week will be the last, it's the last home games for Lewis and high school baseball. So they once again will start at 2, luckily, instead of 3. But last time they started at 2, we did not get started till about an hour after our regular scheduled time. Expect that to be the case next week. We'll give you your full 2 hours, but expect a 7 p.m. Pacific start time. If we can start sooner, we will let you know. It all kind of depends on how the 2 games go. And again, that'll be it for the high school.
We
Really
can't
messing
plan
things
anything
up.
with that
No.
because you tried, you thought, oh, we'll get through it pretty quick, and then
not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close.
You're
And it was
messing
even
me fourth inning, and I'm like,
even last week where I'm like, all right, well, hey, I'll hop on near the end of the show because it starts an hour later,
Right.
and the first game flew by. And then the last 2 innings of the second game just were horrendously slow. And by the time you guys were wrapping up, I literally turned on the show on my phone a minute after I went off the air for that radio game to you
Right.
guys going, oh, it was a fun show.
Well,
So
you know.
there you
Well,
go.
that's the thing. Nobody voted on it, so I know that
Eric won.
No, Eric didn't win.
Eric won.
Nah,
He did.
Nobody
I'm voting
voted.
right now. You were waiting for me to vote. I'm voting now. Eric won.
Who were his picks?
I don't remember. Something about nicknames.
It was nicknames. He did have a couple of good ones.
Who had the big unit?
He had the big.
All right,
unit.
he wins.
No, come
He
on, come on.
The fact that you both went Seattle Mariners in your first round
First
made
two.
me want to throw up.
First 2 picks were both
Just-
Mariners.
Purely wanted me to throw up. The first 2 were Seattle Mariners.
We, big unit, and then you got to go with the kid.
You don't have to go with the kid.
We did.
That's
We had-
embarrassing.
I took Cal
you
Ripken
both
Jr.
should be.
I took the Iron Man.
You both should be embarrassed. Embarrassed. All right. But again, so next week we'll start about an hour late. Possibly. We'll see how it all goes. But next week we will do our 1 through 10 mock draft. We are not going to have you guys sit through all 31 picks that will be part of the first round of the NFL draft. Again, Miami lost their first round pick. So at least it'll be slightly slower or shorter.
Sure, slightly.
With one less pick. We will not be doing a live reaction with the R&R Sports Report. You have to work. There's a chance I have to work. I have not seen next week's schedule, but I've been working a lot of Thursdays.
I have track. We got track meets the next 2 Thursdays.
There's been so much going on. I would not have had time to set up all the cool graphics we were able to do last year. So we're going to take this year off, and then we will see where we go from there. But we will have a full mock or review of it the following week. But we'll do our mock drafts. We'll each do 1 through 10.
Right.
And then maybe some extra special picks. I know my team picks 13th. Yours is
like
22nd.
18, say 18 or 19.
We have questions about that on today's show, but we'll mock our own teams or whatever. But we will do a quick preview of the NFL draft today and kind of go through what we expect to happen and any craziness that may go around that draft, which is we're in single digits now from the NFL draft. It's gone pretty quick. Obviously, there's been some big NFL news, especially for a certain Washington team that has changed its name a few times. They got some possible big news. We'll get into the MLB. We'll get into the power rankings. I will piss off Eric Watkins.
You missed the greatest part about last week with him and I doing power rankings.
Okay.
We were exactly the same.
That's boring. It's absolutely boring.
He never sees our notes.
Right.
Like you and I. So when he fills in, he's going totally blind.
Mhm.
And I'm typing in why he's doing it. I get down to the 3rd pick and I'm thinking, really? No way. Can we think the entire way the same? And we did.
Which is actually surprising this early on because a lot of teams are about the same record. I still rely on you guys. We're a little bit too focused on what the records are now and not what they will be later on.
And that's, we'll talk about
But
that.
that's there. Of course, LC Sports starting to get to the wrap-up points of their seasons here in the spring. Baseball had a wild weekend, but the results were positive. We'll talk about that. Track starting to wrap up. Tennis is done with their team record part of their schedule. They play a couple of community college schools left, but those don't count towards team records. They'll just be individual records and, of course, all the tournaments and stuff. We're getting right down to the wire as far as high school baseball and softball. Track has been all over the place. I have gripes about how high school or junior high, at least, track events are ran now that my son is a part of them. Holy goodness. Can we
Thursday
condense these things? No.
Thursday, come on over and help.
Absolutely not.
Help run.
Unless you guys allow me to go, let's go. Why it takes 10 minutes between races is beyond me.
I feel you.
On your mark, is that go?
Yeah.
Set go. And then go again.
Well, and this was my thing with last week's high school one for Clarkson is we actually didn't have a marshal lining up things with the starter.
That would
and
be
so
difficult.
the starter was trying to marshal and do that, and so it's like all right, it took a little bit of time.
No,
so.
I was having fun watching the people do all of the long jump stuff and mark things down and sweep off the sand and stuff and make sure all the kids were getting ran. And there hadn't been a kid in that area for 30 minutes. Yes, exactly, Frank. Herding cats. It's hilarious to see just kids are everywhere in the infield there, and very much in very big packs of groups. But nobody had jumped in maybe 30 minutes. And you hear the announcer say something about, we will stop jumping in 15 minutes. And you see both of them going, we've been done. We're done. It's over. There's nothing here.
Well, the nice thing about, at least in the high schools, they have open pits for, half of the either boys go here and then girls go there. We switch. So most of them communicate with me up in the press box. Okay, it's time. Let's go ahead and open the other side. We'll get them going. We keep running. And most of the field events for me at the high school level, at least, are done within a few minutes. But try to tell a 12, 13, 14-year-old, pay attention to when your flights happen.
Yeah, that's
the crazy part.
It's brutal. I mean, and the race events definitely took much longer than the field events yesterday.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where we're combining races. Like they were supposed to do 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and all that. And they went, you know what? Let's just do all of them at once. And they got them all out there and went, this is too many. So they pulled the 8th graders. But they were attempting to combine some things for the final relays. They combined boys and girls, just trying to get races in there. It's like, yes, combine whatever you can. The fact that we were having 6 runners go an event and then 2 runners went just themselves. I'm like, there's 8 lanes. Just put them all in one race.
Well, they had one girls event, the 300-meter hurdles at the high school last week. One girl ran it, no boys. So, I mean, one person ran the entire thing. They had to set up hurdles for one person.
Yeah. Just have them race with the boys. It's totally fine. And it won't bother her.
Exactly.
At the end.
All right. The other one.
Okay.
You are 10 days away from seeing your first MMA fights.
Yeah. Haley and I were just talking about that today, where it was like, man, it's more than halfway through the middle of March, or not March, April. What? I don't know time. I don't know time or distance.
Well, that's the other thing. I leave for Vegas or Reno in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Everything is flying by. Yes. We will be at our first MMA events, both Haley and I, for the Clearwater combat stuff, the training stuff. Once again, we had one set up and then he ended up going on his vacation. Cabo. Yeah. What a poor guy. Austin had a beautiful vacation, and now we are, like we just said, a week and a half away from the fights.
As Eric brings it up.
Yeah, that's why we're about a week and a half away from the fight, so we will let the fights happen. And then once again, we will approach trying to set this stuff up. Though now I'm worried because I was telling you off the air, I have signed up for my first ever PBA regional event in July, and I would like to have the use of my right arm and hopefully both legs for said event. But I don't know. We got to get it done.
I don't know if I can compete with you guys, but I might make a road trip and
come watch.
Support.
I guarantee that I will finish in the top 50. That's as far as I will go. I have low expectations, but I have expectations for myself. So top 50, I guarantee it.
So my question is that how many are they allowing in the tournament?
50.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Top 50. That's what I'm bringing you. That's all I got for you right now.
I'm gonna set up some odds for this one. Over under. I'm gonna put a poll. We'll put a poll out there of where you finish over under.
Standing wise, it depends on how many people get in. Mine is probably going to be more plus or minus where I'm at. So the way a lot of PBA scores go, it's based on what you are compared to the average of 200. I'm not going to. I will set a goal for myself over a 7-game qualifying round that we'll have that first day. Give me time though, because we are going to practice on that oil pattern, and then I will let you know if it's going to be good or bad for the style of game that I like to throw.
Are you going to get Lance to set it up? And
Probably
plug it in?
Ryan up at Orchards.
Ryan.
Ryan has the cool oil machine that he can
You
plug
just
it in
plug
exactly.
it in and it goes.
But before we get into the main topic, we do have to bring up the sad news that happened on Saturday. I knew it was going down throughout the week. Did not want to bring stuff up. I want to say that the first stuff happened earlier on in that week, and he tried to hold on. But my former boss and former guest of the show, Don Walden, who was the Lewiston Tribune's sports editor, shockingly passed on Saturday. He had a stroke earlier in the week and succumbed to the complications from that stroke. Just this past weekend, I know earlier, like a week or two ago, he was dealing with pneumonia. And I know he had a lot of health complications and stuff that he had been dealing with. I don't know Don very much outside of wearing a mask. I mean, because I started working there after all the COVID stuff happened, and with his health complications, he just always had a mask on. He'd take it off here and there, but was horrible news to hear. He was a great mentor to me and has really helped push me along as far as the sports media market goes and gave me a job. And even though I left there in January to kind of focus in on trying to finish school, and this semester was going to be really tough, he took it completely fantastically and still helped me along the way. And we had an open door policy for me when things went down. So it's been really tough. I know Trevin's taking it really tough. He was a big mentor for him too. So our thoughts and prayers are out there for the Walden family and anyone else that is hit by this news. Maybe I'll have Robert post the what am I thinking of?
There was a little article in today's paper.
Well, not the article, but the GoFundMe. That's the word I'm looking for. There's a GoFundMe out for his family and stuff. So we'll post that. So if you are able to donate to his family, who are definitely going through a hard time. He has 2 kids that are in grade school right now. One has autism. So they definitely could get your help. It's been not a fun week for me and many other people. And I was doing fine until I started talking about it. So do you talk so I can just take a breath?
So, you know, I had dealings with him as you and I doing high school stuff for so many years. And I had the opportunity to meet him at the Coop over at Kramer Gym and spend some time and chat with him. And then, you know, really got into chatting with him so much because he lived baseball just as much as you and I did up in the press box during NAIA time. And
he was up there a lot. He was
up
the World Series.
And just constantly, you know, he was that guy you kind of could poke at just a little bit and have a good time with him. I mean, he's friends with, you know, everybody in the press box knew who he was, and he brought that lightfulness of.
I'm glad you call lightfulness.
Well,
working for him is a whole different.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, he could rattle off stats like Denny on some things.
Yeah, he definitely knew his stuff. He was one of those people that I got to know. He had a quick temper, and things could rattle him quickly, but he would bounce back a lot. I would laugh at him a lot for throwing his notebook over one small mistake that happened at the Tribune, and then he would bounce back and be just fine. Trevin and I had many jokes throughout the year and a half that I worked there of if Don went, you guys did okay, that means you kicked it that day. Like his compliments were not huge,
few and far between.
But if he even gave you a little bit of a hint, which hit me a lot when I did the basketball story a couple weeks ago, he sent me a message and it was a great story, and then stole it and put it in the paper. But obviously he credited me and all that. But to have him say it was a good story, that meant it's like, man, this is like award winning apparently from Don. So definitely we'll miss him and his antics. And again, we will probably post the GoFundMe and the other information as more of that stuff comes out. For Don, wanted to just hit that at the beginning and get through it. And now let's move on to the NFL draft. Again, we are less than 10 days away. The first round is a week from Thursday, April 27th, as the second and third rounds will be that Friday, and then the rest of the rounds will happen behind the scenes basically on Saturday. If you've ever watched a draft show on Saturday, it's just people talking with the picks happening at the bottom of the screen for the most part. But you can watch that as well. It's kind of cool that they have taken the draft on the road. Talked about this before. It's in Kansas City this year. So, interesting to take it to a city that does not care about the draft because they just continue to pick late in the first round. But what are your just quick thoughts on what we're going to see a week from Thursday?
I think we're going to see right at the beginning whether or not we see a big move, especially with the Panthers still, as of today, still we're not 100%.
Yeah, kicking tires on everybody.
I think the one story that came to light to me this afternoon was, Young has already canceled the rest of his 32-team tour that he was supposedly doing after only visiting 3 teams.
Yeah, he's not going to go past 2.
No, so which tells me right away, and one of them has got the 8th pick, but does he move up? That being the Las Vegas Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes, when that team came up, I kind of added into that conversation thinking, really, does that really work? I think he's gone in the first 2. I actually think both him and Stroud are gone within the first 3 picks.
Yeah. We'll get more into that. I have a Believe It or Not segment that will be attached with this. It's going to be really interesting, this draft, because once again, it's quarterback heavy at the top. The more time that goes by from the end of the season to this draft, the more the quarterbacks continue to move up these mock drafts,
right,
to the point that we could see 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks. And that becomes crucial for those teams that don't need a quarterback but are drafting up there in the draft order, because all these guys that could potentially be the best player in the draft could fall to 5th, 6th, 7th. And then do teams move up to try to get the best player in the draft in like the 7th spot?
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of questions that will go into Thursday, which will make it even more fun. And then you add it into the fact that Aaron Rodgers' deal still has not happened. He's still on the Green Bay Packers. We will talk about that also on the Believe It or Not section. So there's a ton of intrigue going on with just over a week away from the first draft. There are 5 teams that do not have a first-round pick: the Cleveland Browns, the Los Angeles Rams, the Denver Broncos, the San Francisco 49ers, and again, Miami, who lost their pick due to tampering charges and whatever else they had. Those 5 teams, unless they trade back up into it, can relax on Thursday and focus in on Friday. The teams that will have the most busy week will be the Houston Texans and Las Vegas Raiders. They both have 12 picks. Texans have 2 of the top 12. Patriots and Rams both with 11. And then the Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Giants both have 10 picks, while Miami only has 4 picks in the entire draft. 4. So not much will come out from that team. The Ravens, Vikings, and Broncos only have 5 picks each. Do you see either of those teams trading like next year's picks and or players to try to get more picks in this draft this year?
Yeah. And we're thinking Miami, and they're trying to build on what things are happening. I'm still concerned whether or not, how is Tua going to look, with it. Tyreek has already said he's retiring at the end of 2025. Do they bring somebody in to help prep them? I could easily see Miami make a couple moves here to try to get up a little bit. So,
or are they just going all in while they have their pieces?
That's what I'm wondering. Do they go all in now with Tyreek? Do they go all in? It's going to be interesting with that one. The other team in there with the Rams, with their weird move today, let's go ahead and give up Robinson
Mhm.
and a 7th round to get a 7th round back.
Is that the deal that
That
ended
was
up
it. Yeah,
happening?
that's what it was. It was Allen Robinson in a 7th round.
Yeah,
for
last
a
I heard
7th round.
they were just in talks.
And so it makes things a little weird. But
Mhm.
I mean, what are the Rams trying to do out there with Matt Stafford and that crew, and how do they get back from where they played terribly the year before this past year,
Mhm.
being a defending champion, to not even producing anything?
Well, they
really
had
now?
so many injuries last year, and now them giving up on the draft has put them in that tough cap situation. They went all in, and it worked out for them. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Obviously, they were hoping to be contenders last year, but all the injuries really hindered that. And we all knew this was going to happen eventually. And maybe it's happening just a little bit sooner than we expected. But I'm not surprised
Mhm.
that all of that is happening on. So again, we will do our mock draft next week. But right now, sir,
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions three.
it's time.
Where the other side he sees.
A longer segment than I thought. There we go. Randy's Believe It or Not. I will give you a statement. You tell me if you believe it or not. So a segment that has never been done in the history of sports talk radio, sports talk anything. It's a very original segment that we have here on the R&R Sports Report here on the LCWR. Ready?
All right, here we go.
Okay, we're talking about all those quarterbacks that have been climbing up all the mock drafts. Believe it or not, 4 quarterbacks will go in the first 5 picks. Of course, those quarterbacks, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. And the teams currently in the top 5, Carolina, Houston, Detroit, Indianapolis, and Seattle. Do you believe it or not?
Yeah, I don't see
who falls out.
I think, like I said, I think Young and Stroud are gone in the first 2 picks.
Mhm.
Anthony Richardson has been
Flying up boards,
mm-hmm. visiting lots of people. I don't think Will makes it out of the top 5. So
how far down will Will Levis go? Are we talking Aaron Rodgers fall? Where he goes at the very end of the first round?
I think he's gone in the first 15. Right around 15.
But not top 10?
I don't think so. There's so many decent defensive linemen and linebackers in this class that I can see a little bit more heavy after those 2 guys go. So I would say top 15, but I don't see him going top 10.
Levis, I'm with you. Levis is the question mark as far as will 4 go in the top 5. I think 3 do, for sure.
Yeah.
Young, Stroud, and Richardson, I think, go. I think there's enough love for Richardson, especially if you have a quarterback right now, a la Detroit with Goff, where you can get a Richardson and sit him for a year or most of the year until you're knocked out and give him some run.
Right.
And it won't hurt you too much. Usually not something you do in the top 5 with the draft, but we've seen it many times of a quarterback sitting for a year and it working out extremely well for them. You look at the picks or the teams that are up at the top of this draft, as I had mentioned. Carolina absolutely needs a quarterback. Houston absolutely needs a quarterback. Detroit, not as much. Goff is not a top tier quarterback, but he's serviceable enough. Indianapolis seems to finally be done kicking tires on old fogies.
So we think.
Right.
We're talking a bit.
They have waited at
Jim
least
Irsay,
through this point. They need a quarterback. Seattle could be a perfect spot for a quarterback to sit a year and then come out and follow Geno Smith.
Right. After they paid him so much money. But reading in that contract, he had lots of little loopholes that he could sneak in.
And you know what? If Geno continues to play like he did last year, where he was the comeback player of the year, even though he didn't come back from anything, if it doesn't work out, then you can look at maybe moving him. I know San Francisco is thinking of ways to possibly move Trey Lance if Purdy ends up coming back and continues to play well. But now Purdy is saying he's not even sure if he'll even be able to play next year with his injury. But it's nice to have those options open. So I know Eric says 2, maybe 3 make it. I think 3 for sure will be in the top 5. It's just Will Levis. And that really comes down to the Raiders. If there's a team in this top 5 that will not take one of those 4 quarterbacks, do the Raiders jump up and make that move? And that brings me to my next believe it or not.
Believe it.
No more trades will happen in the first 10 picks of this draft. The order we have now will be the way that they draft on a week from Thursday.
I'm going to disagree. The only reason why is I think, honestly, if Vegas wants to try to make a move for, say, Richardson, I think they move up. And the team, I think, it would have to be Arizona. Does Arizona give up that pick? I mean, that's...
It is Arizona at 3, not Detroit at 3.
Right.
Why do I have Detroit at 3?
Yeah, Detroit is at 6.
I apologize there.
From LA.
I don't know why the list that I was looking at earlier had Detroit at 3.
Yeah. So I
so
think
Arizona's at 3, and that makes it interesting. But
yeah, I think that's the only one there. What does Philadelphia do? They're in the top 10.
Not with the quarterback.
No, not with the quarterback. But I mean, do they do something? The same with the Bears. They have that pick from Carolina. They've made it quite clear that they have their quarterback right now. They didn't do anything really crazy. I think the main one is, what does Vegas do? How do they make themselves better?
Vegas is the only team that's currently in the top 10 that I can see moving up. It's what is going to happen if a bunch of quarterbacks go early on in this draft, where a team may really like one of those defensive players and then try to move up. And that is where Philadelphia, who was fantastic last year, made it to the Super Bowl, could trade down for more picks and try to build up that way. We saw that we've seen them move picks all over the place. They have this pick because of all the moves that they have made, where they traded just a bunch of draft picks around last year, where they had 3 first-round picks last year and moved things around, and it's worked out for them. So I'm with you. I also do not believe it. I believe we will get a trade in the top 10, though I don't know if we'll see one in the top 5. I mean, the one that stands out is Arizona, and maybe that's what I saw was a mock draft where somebody moved Detroit up to that 3 spot. But yeah, I think anybody in the top 5 that would move is Arizona.
It has to be. I'm intrigued to see, even with, if we look at the top 15, what your team does going in still.
Offensive line. Well, spoilers for a minute.
Yeah, even with whether or not anything finishes out trade wise, we're what, 9 days from draft time. So
2018, 4 quarterbacks drafted in the top 10. It's Baker Mayfield. It's Sam Darnold. It's Josh Rosen and Josh Allen.
I think you're right.
I was right, because I was really high on Josh Rosen, and he became the worst one. Or was it? Yeah, that was the year of Darnold, not Zach Wilson. Yeah, there's too many Jets quarterbacks lately that I almost disagreed with myself. But yeah, that was the draft. I was dead set. I wanted the Jets to get Josh Rosen, and then the Browns went crazy and went Baker Mayfield, and I went, I guess we can get Sam Darnold. That's great.
And Lamar did not Jackson ends up pick number 32.
Yep. And that is help with a question we will have here shortly. All right. So speaking of the Jets and quarterbacks, believe it or not, Aaron Rodgers will still be on the Green Bay Packers at the conclusion of the first round of this draft.
Listen, my biggest thing is I hope things get figured out between our two teams before we even get to this point.
Your team is not the Packers.
I'm saying
I don't care
though,
about your Ravens until our next, believe it or not.
I
Or a
I
couple.
sure hope. I really hope they do get something figured out quicker than later.
It's not going to
I
happen.
mean, how much longer do we have to hold out to figure out? Mr. Murphy, let's just get a deal done. Let's move on from Green Bay.
It is going to happen before the second round and or before the Jets pick back-to-back picks
Right.
in the second round. It's not going to happen in the first round because that first round pick is not going to be part of the deal. I did hear a rumored offer that was the Jets give up the third round pick this year and then a first round pick next year, no matter what. And it was the owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson, who said absolutely not on that one because he saw Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show and went, he was like 90% sure he was retiring before this year. So why would we want to give up a first round pick after he may not play that second year? So it'll be interesting. I still believe it'll be a second round pick this year and then some kind of weird conditional pick the year after, and then possibly a insurance pick back to the Jets if they can work that out. But I am very much set that it's not going to happen until after the first round is concluded, because the second round is 5, 6 o'clock at night, especially on the East Coast time. It's like it. So you have that entire day before the second round starts to go, okay, now we're going to sit down. Let's get this done. We've gotten through all of our first round stuff. Now let's buckle down, make this happen before the second round happens. So I will say I do believe he will still be on Green Bay at the conclusion of the first round next week.
I think that's a strong statement. I think it is. I would like to see it happen earlier, but
and it's helped me.
It.
It's helped me stay calm as a Jets fan.
Right.
Just it's not going to happen until next Friday. Don't even worry about it.
Right,
and the way it was in February, we were thinking it was going to get done, and it doesn't get done. Been able to do what Aaron Rodgers told us to do a few years ago. RELAX. Relax. That's what we're doing. All right. Speaking of Lamar Jackson, a team will move into the final 5 picks of the first round to draft a quarterback. Believe it or not.
I don't see it happening.
So we both believe Young, Stroud, Richardson, and Levis will go in the first half.
Yeah.
Of the first round. So they are gone. So what are we looking at as far as quarterbacks? Who Stenson Bennett from Georgia, Hendon Hooker, who is very good at Tennessee but got injured. Could a team take a chance on him? I know a lot of people are starting to get really high on the Houston quarterback, who is it, Clayton Tune. I think it's one of those 3 would be the 5th quarterback off the board, and obviously the first after those 4. Does a team take a chance and jump up and take their guy at the end of that first round?
I think it all depends on draft order. I mean, you look who else needs somebody.
Oh, there's lots.
You got how many more years is Tennessee going to keep plugging money into Tannehill?
Believe it or not, sir. Believe it or not.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no.
I don't believe it either. I just think there's too much of a gap.
Yeah.
And you can wait till the second round. And what was it last year? We were thinking a couple quarterbacks would go at the end of the first round. They didn't go to like the 3rd or 4th round. Like everyone really played the waiting game last year. And they might, again, real quick, let's go speed round here.
All right.
A little homerish time.
All right.
The Jets, with the 13th pick in the draft, will draft an offensive lineman, believe it or not.
They better. They got to protect Aaron Rodgers.
Please believe it. And with all the quarterbacks going, it's going to be a really good offensive lineman, I think. The Ravens, with the 22nd pick, will pick secondary help, believe it or not.
I think so. They have to, because Marcus Peters is getting old. Marlon Humphrey hasn't played extremely well. I say yes. Could Banks or Porter drop that far?
Believe it or not.
Yes.
Believes it. I believe it too. Last one for all you Seattle fans out there. Seattle has the 5th and the 20th pick. Believe it or not, Seattle will not draft an offensive player with either of those first-round picks.
I'm gonna say no. They need a running back, and I think they need to get that taken.
That wasn't the one I wanted. I
don't believe it.
That's the one I wanted.
Oh, I'm like, well, I'm hearing voices.
That's a problem, especially because you forgot you don't have
I don't have
batteries
my
for your hearing aids.
Yep. Then I struggled with that on Saturday because they died up there while I was at work in the conference area.
So you're going to say they are going to get an offensive player?
I think they need an offensive. They need a
I
running back.
say if they do not go quarterback with that 5th pick, no. They are not going to pick an offensive player.
It's not a yes or no. It's yes or no.
I know, but I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback with that 5th pick.
Yeah.
But that is the one I think they will. I don't think they take a offensive player with the 20th pick. So I'm also going to not believe it. Snyder looks like he will be selling the Commanders for some crazy amount of billions and billions of dollars, which just shows you being an idiot and a perv and a horrible human being does pay.
$6.05 billion to Magic Johnson and Mr. Harris from, was it the New Jerseys? Yeah.
People. I wasn't like a Canadian group too, isn't that thing?
Yeah. So
I've heard a lot of people thinking, oh yeah, now that they're going to get it from Snyder, we can go back to the Washington Redskins. It's never going to happen.
No.
Ever. Stop it.
Too many people are afraid of getting their feelings hurt.
Stop it.
So what do they do though?
What?
So what do they do if they get it and everything goes through?
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing you
build a new stadium?
What do they fix?
The stadium. The stadium is horrendous.
I've never been in there, so
this is all I've heard. Is it's a toilet bowl. It's the Washington turds over there. All right. You fix your stadium problem by just moving somewhere else. Obviously, I'm not saying away out of the Washington area, or the Washington D.C. area.
Could that be an option? Do they pick up and move now?
And they're saying they're going back to RFK. So I think they need a brand new stadium. I think they need to go all in on this stuff. But you're spending a bunch of money just to get the team.
Just to get the team.
But the team name's going to stand. It's the Commanders. Deal with it. If you still hate it, I don't care. Who cares?
Yeah.
Team names change. We've had this discussion for years. Team names change all the time. Just because these ones were over sensitivity issues, I don't care. Again, I'm a New York Yankees fan. They used to be the Hilltoppers. I'm a Jets fan. They used to be the Titans. You're a Ravens fan. They used to be the Browns. Okay? Team names change. It's cool.
It happens.
Eric's a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. They used to be called non-existent. They're going to be changed to the Jacksonville AEW or the Jacksonville Elite at some point. And I don't care. Very cool news for Buffalo Bills safety DeMar Hamlin. He has been cleared to play after his cardiac arrest on January 2nd. So once again,
play. That doesn't, whether
Orioles already. That's not true. The Yankees used to be the Baltimore Orioles, and then they became the Hilltoppers, and then the Yankees, and then the Orioles got their own thing back. So you should be a Yankees fan because you were around, Denny, when the Orioles changed their name to the New York Hilltoppers.
Ouch.
But very cool for Hamlin that he'll be able to get back out on the field. Yeah. As our buddy David Doofenberg told me earlier today, that gives a hit to those that believe he's a hologram. To see him back on the field, it'd be difficult for a hologram to make a tackle.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he does in workouts.
Yes.
What does he look like in workouts?
Take your time.
Yeah, so
build it back up.
Do we see him in the first half of the season?
Yeah.
Maybe
to play a little bit.
A limited,
sure.
Yeah, but
for sure. It was just it's a very cool story.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts got paid 5 years, $255 million with $179 million guaranteed. I did not put this on the notes, but will he be the third highest paid by year quarterback by the start of the season?
After
Herbert, after Burrow. Has Burrow been paid?
Burrow has not been paid yet.
Burrow, Herbert, Jackson. By the first snap in Arrowhead on that Thursday night, week 1, is Jalen Hurts the third highest per year quarterback?
As a Ravens fan, I sure hope so. Have the top 2 quarterbacks in AFC
After
North.
Jackson signs with the Indianapolis Colts.
God, no,
Is that what we're going with?
No.
All right, that'll do it for the NFL. Again, we'll have our mock draft next week.
Wait, isn't Robert Taylor still with us?
Probably not. He's been very quiet for the NFL segment.
I was just say I'm sad that he didn't realize about it. He has a new backup.
Who cares about Blaine Gabbert? If Blaine Gabbert becomes an issue or a quarterback or a topic, then we will hear it from Robert Taylor and how sad he is that Mahomes is hurt. All right. There's no quarterback controversy in Kansas City. Though we should bring it up. What are the chances that Gabbert can
try to do?
No,
I'm just trying to.
It's so outlandish. It's like
he's listening. How do you feel about Blaine Gabbert now being your backup in Kansas
City? It's about
City?
as outlandish as saying that Hawthorne is going to win the AFL Cup this year. It's just not going to happen. Haney was in the same boat. Haney did well in the playoff game. That's for sure.
Yeah, he quit right after the playoff game. Right after the Super Bowl. I'm done.
He got a second ring. He didn't care.
Out of here.
He's done. All right. MLB scoreboard. Detroit swept Cleveland in their doubleheader, won the first one 4-3, and the second one 1-0. Philadelphia and the White Sox also doing a doubleheader. Philadelphia won the first game 7-4, and the White Sox right now up 3-0 in the 9th inning against the Phillies right now. Other finals, Tampa Bay got back on the winning side. They crushed Cincinnati 10-0. I'm glad they finally played somebody in Toronto this last weekend. We'll get to that. Miami beat the Giants 4-2. Baltimore with a 1-0 win over the lonely Washington Nationals. Looks like the Angels might hold on and beat the Yankees 5-2. That home run Ohtani hit in the first inning, that was a laser. God, Clark Schmidt is just not good. I had hopes for him. It's not working out for him. Boston and Minnesota tied at 2 in the 9th inning. Texas all over the Royals 8-2 in the 7th. Diamondbacks over the Cardinals 7-3 in the 6th inning. Toronto is shutting out Houston 4-0 in the 6th. Pittsburgh over Colorado 5-3 in the 4th. And just getting going and scoreless are the Cubs and Athletics, as well as the Braves and the Padres. Milwaukee already with a run over Seattle after Yelich hit a leadoff home run. And the Mets and Dodgers start in about 30 minutes from now.
Denny needs a repeat. He didn't hear the score.
1-0
so
to your team.
I'm going to ask you this, and this is just, and it's not anywhere in there.
Okay.
Are we starting to see, and you know how I am about scores and schedules and all that and who we play. Are we already to that point where we're starting to see the cream starting to rise a little bit?
No. Yeah, I mean, it's still early April. There's so many players that starting even made their debut. A lot of things that will change throughout the season. There have been some great starts from teams that I expect to be good. I think obviously the Rays record early on puts them in the conversation of being a playoff team and making us both look really, really stupid.
Yeah.
The fact that they started 13-0,
right.
And if they go 500 from the rest of the way, they'll still win like 90 games, and that should be enough to make the playoffs. So
and we talked about it, and when Eric and I brought it up last week, and we're very high on this. Everything doesn't matter until about Labor Day, and that's when we've always talked about Labor Day is that time. But you look at.
Give us a month and a half, and then we'll start looking.
You look at the standing watching, and you see the Kansas City. What are they going to do something as Royals fans to try to get back on it?
They're horrible.
What is Oakland going to do? Is it going to? Is it time for Oakland to pick up and leave out of the Bay and
they're
move
still only getting like 43 people showing up to their games?
But that's what I'm saying, though. You've already started to see some of those teams that.
And I will
say
this because I wasn't on the show last week. I decided I always play a season or try to do a franchise on MLB The Show. And I used to do all the franchise drafts and stuff. And no, even if I set limitations on myself, if I can't draft anybody over the age of 25, or I can't draft anybody that has over $1 million or whatever things I would set for my draft, I always ended up being like a top 5, top 10 team. So it wasn't super challenging to myself to have a good team in there, and then I wouldn't continue with the franchise. This year I decided I'm going to take the worst team in the game and just don't have a draft and just build up that team. And it was between the Washington Nationals and the Oakland Athletics. Ratings wise, those are the 2 worst teams. I started with the Oakland Athletics. I cannot play in that stadium 81 times. It's the ugliest stadium, even in video game form. I can't do it. Absolutely cannot do it. So I'm the Washington Nationals.
We got to figure out. Let's somehow, Denny, is there a way to get a hold of Seth Brown and ask him what is it like to play in?
He's hurt right now, right?
Yes, he is hurt. Yeah. I mean, so maybe Denny's got an in with Seth Brown where you can figure out. Oh, what's it like playing there?
I have one major leaguer's number, and it's not Seth Brown, but he rarely commented back to me. I was trying to for a story I was trying to do back in fall. Yeah. It's a horrible stadium. It's a horrible ownership. It's a horrible fan base. They need to move. The fact that Utah now is building a stadium and expect to have a expansion team has me very curious, because we all think Oakland should and will move. There's been those talks with Tampa Bay and whether they will move or not, but it's sounding more like Utah wants to start a franchise.
Right.
So that would be Team 31. So then you'd have to have a second one, and which would realign all the divisions, and we'd go to the NFL where it'd be 8 divisions of 4. And that could be really interesting because right now some of these divisions are very messed up. So let's play some fun real quick.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, even though we're so far behind, but that's cool. So let's say Tampa.
No, why would we want to go back to Montreal again?
Hold on. So I will give you your choice of one of 2 teams, Minnesota or Tampa Bay moves, because Minnesota was a team a while ago, but they seem to have been turning things around. But Minnesota or Tampa Bay and Oakland both move. Okay, so we have 2 teams moving.
Right.
And we get 2 expansion teams. Where are the 4 locations that those teams are going to go?
I would love to see another one over here in the Northwest or somewhere in that area.
Could
but
they
couldn't handle it. That's the thing. They can't handle it because of weather. I mean, look at this morning.
You would have to have a retractable roof.
Here in the LC Valley, we woke up to, what was it, 32 degrees, 33 degrees, snowing all around us, another 2 inches up in Anatone. I would love to see one in Boise area or something like that. But I don't think Boise couldn't handle it. I don't think.
Absolutely.
I think the next one, and I hate to agree with Eric, but Vegas. I mean,
Vegas
do you change the 51? Do you change the 51s and move them out someplace else, and then or make them the 51s, and that's now the new team there. I think that's
I think Vegas is getting a team. I think that is a near lock, whether it's Oakland or Tampa Bay or the other expansion team.
The Billings Bisons.
Oh, God. So we only have one team in Canada. There's Toronto. Right. And when they make the playoffs, it's insane. You want another Pacific Northwest team? How about Vancouver?
Vancouver would be good.
Vancouver could be an interesting spot. I am with Eric with Montreal. When Toronto went, or was it Toronto? Who went up there recently and played in Montreal? Was it last year? Eric would probably know. But that place was bonkers. Well, they missed that sport.
All right.
They were given a horrible team forever in a horrible stadium. You give them a second chance. That would be great. You want to go the opposite way? How about Mexico City? We start really expanding it. We just watched the World Baseball Classic,
right,
and how crazy people got for Cuba versus the Dominican Republic, or Mexico versus, I'm blanking on the other team that was down there, Venezuela. There's a lot of love of baseball in that area. The best place to put it, I think, would be Mexico City. Would you like to put it in one of those islands that really get into it? Sure, but that makes it just difficult for travel and country talk.
What
So,
would the chances be of
there
another
you go.
team?
It
in
was Toronto.
Another team in the Peoria area or the southern area, Santa Fe or something like that.
Mhm.
I mean, that might be another draw for early games down in that area. too.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, would we absolutely love to see the World Series become
Mhm.
global like
Oh,
we would
yeah.
like it? Obviously, travel would be insane, but would love to see a team in Japan if travel wasn't ridiculous to get out there all the time, and that would just be a big headache. New York needs another team. The teams there now are boring. Yankees right now are not putting on a very good show. So I would agree with you there. But yeah, there's a lot of options. Obviously, Utah is going to be on that list. So we will see where all of that goes. It is 2023. Do we have 32 teams playing, not set up or talked about, playing by 2027? 4 years.
4 years. There's a strong possibility. I really think that we have a move within the next few years.
Now, Oakland is moving. God, Oakland
They
has
have
to
to.
move this year or by at the end of this year. They have to be just dumping money.
So this might be a question for Denny, and I don't remember when everything went down with Seattle. Where was the team? Where were the Mariners planning on heading? I'm trying to remember because it was down
where
to
they were thinking.
94. It was to we got to start winning, or you guys were gone.
Wasn't it?
And then everything happened when 95 and 95 Seattle became
Oh
a
man,
baseball
I can't even
city
think
again.
about it. I know we've talked about this before, but I'm blanking
don't
on where they were planning on going. So let's kind of get back to some news. Pablo Lopez looks like he's going to finalize a 4-year, $73.5 million extension. He was traded from Miami. He's been fantastic. By the way, greatest trade of all time was Pablo Lopez for Luis Ariz. Ariz, I don't even know what he's batting now, but he was like batting 500 this weekend on the year. Pablo Lopez has been fantastic for Minnesota. It worked beautifully for both teams. Fernando Tatis Jr. will see his 80-day suspension conclude. He will be activated on Thursday. Do we start seeing San Diego start picking up? Manny Machado's been very bad to start this year. You get Tatis in that lineup. I think it would be a lot of fun.
It's going to be really crazy to see what they do with their I was looking here. Ariz is still batting 458 right now.
He's doing okay.
Yeah. I got focused on Ariz really quick.
Stop.
I know.
Tatis.
Yeah.
Padres.
My question is with Xander Bogaerts there.
Mhm.
Is he pretty well set to stay in the outfield? Will he get time roaming around?
Tatis will be outfield.
In the infield.
No. Tatis will be outfield.
They've got a couple of guys I know that are hurting and not playing right now.
Mhm. Yeah, Tatis will be in the outfield this year. Could he play a game or two if needed in the infield? Absolutely. But I expect to see most of his time out in the outfield.
And Ariz is batting 48 points higher than the next person, and that is Matt Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman's off to a pretty good start as well. Pitchers continue to get injuries. DeGrom pulled after pitching just 4 hitless, but he said he was feeling a bit better. It doesn't look like he's even going to miss a start at this point, though Texas could have him push a start just to be safe early on. We saw that with Minnesota and Kenta Maeda earlier, where Maeda looked like he could have made the start last week, but they decided just to push him back one just to be safe early on in the year. Milwaukee's in a lot of trouble as Corbin Burns left with the left pectoral strain, and Brandon Woodruff is out. What did I see? 4 to 6 weeks with his pectoral strain. So they're in a lot of trouble. My question to you and I both love the pitch clock and all the changes that that have been going on with baseball. But those pitchers that were not in the minors when all the minor leagues were doing all the pitch clock stuff, those a little bit older, Are we going to see more of this as they have to speed up and get out of their rhythm of more of these injuries?
You would sure hope that they have practiced it, starting in spring training time. You would sure hope that they would simulate something to get there, but it takes a little bit of time.
Mhm.
It's the same thing every year. It takes time for some of these guys to finally get warmed up. That's why we see big name, some batters
Mhm.
batting crazy stats right now. So I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think they'll find that groove. But I love this.
Oh,
this
it's
timer.
been so nice. Absolutely fantastic. You are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on LCWR, coming to you from the heart of the LC campus, which we don't do often during the spring.
Yeah,
We will not be here
Crazy.
in studio next week. Again, we'll start about an hour later,
Mhm.
give or take, because I have Lewiston's senior night, which, I forgot. It is
Yeah.
senior night. So hopefully an hour later,
Yeah.
next Tuesday, as it'll be their final doubleheader at home for the regular season. And then we will get back to that show next week. The following week, we should be back here in studio on our normal time. All right, let's get into our standouts. It was an interesting week.
Mhm.
Week. I'm going to let you be a homer
I-
with your standout batter.
Well, I actually 1994. Yes, we know that. But they were talking about moving. They would have likely went to Tampa Bay. Go figure.
There you go.
Listen, I even texted you and I said, "Look at these are crazy numbers," and that was Max Muncy, and I was like, "Dude, put up some crazy numbers," and I thought, "Okay, that's gonna be good." But I'm gonna go homerish just because
No way.
Jared Kelnick went on a heater. He had 4 in a row at one point, but during the week that we talk about,
I need a homer drop.
he goes 8 of 17 with 3 homers, 2 doubles, 5 runs scored, 5 ribbies, and a stolen base. Yes, I went a little homerish.
You did. And listen, we all thought Jared Kelnick was going to be the next big thing in Seattle. And he came up and was starting to be good, and then really struggled. And Julio Rodriguez came in, and people were wondering if Kelnick was even going to make the team,
Right.
or if he was going to get traded. I said he should have been traded for Juan Soto. That was one of the articles that Yahoo picked up.
Yahoo.
And then they ended up going with Luis Castillo, which made me mad because that's who I wanted the Yankees to get. But Kelnick has really started to turn it around, and which shows that, sometimes you have to be up in the big leagues a little bit and start figuring out. We can't just dump people when they aren't working for a couple of months. So very cool to see him get things going. The rest of the Mariners need to figure things out.
Suarez hasn't been bad, but he has his ups and downs.
Yeah, for sure. But it's a good start for Kelnick. We'll see how things go the rest of the year. For me, just for the fact that the Oakland Athletics never, ever are going to get any more love ever, at least this year. How about Brett Rooker? Do you know who that is? I don't know who that
I have
is.
no clue.
Brett Rooker took Kelnick's numbers and took him out to the woodshed. He was 10 of 24, so about the same batting average of Kelnick. 1 more home run. He had 4 home runs. He had 11 RBI and 5 runs. For an Oakland A's team.
I was just saying, for Oakland,
who is 3 and 14.
You realize
Oakland has scored 63 runs all year. 11 of those came off the bat of Rooker last week.
You realize that's the guy that took Seth Brown's spot while Seth Brown is injured.
Yeah. Okay. And it's working out really good. And now they both can start coming down the stretch.
I agree, Danny.
Over or under 110 losses for Oakland?
Over or under 110?
110.
I'm going to say under, but just barely. I'm going to say
it's going to be over.
You think so?
Absolutely. Do you think they're going to win 50 games?
Well, I'm thinking that it might be close. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
They'd have to win 52 games. 53, I guess, to avoid 110 losses. They're 3 and 14.
Yeah.
With a run differential of negative 72.
Wait, Danny says way over 110 losses.
What, Eric, remind me what the 62 Mets did. I want to say maybe 120, which is brutal. to go 40 or 42 and 120 is just embarrassing.
What are they?
But it's okay for Oakland to do it this year because no one's watching.
Are they the worst team? What is the worst record in baseball?
It was a 62 match.
Mets?
I can't remember how many games they actually lost. All right, standout pitcher, and yes, the spring injury for Tampa Bay really sucks. Yeah, there you go, 40, 120, and 1 back then for the Mets, and I think the A's, like Eric said, will be knocking on that door. The Springs injury really hurts the Rays, but
Right.
Shane McClanahan has been absolutely phenomenal. He continues to be so. He went 2-0 last week with a 1.64 ERA, had 15 strikeouts, gave up just 6 hits and 2 earned runs.
Okay.
So he's my standout pitcher because you took my homer pick before I could.
Listen, I took him because that's who I took as my AL Cy Young,
Mhm.
and he's just still
He's crushing
throwing
it.
up numbers. Garrett Cole goes 2-0 this week, 1.13
Mhm.
ERA, including a complete game, 16 innings, 7 hits allowed out of both games, just 2 runs, and 13 strikeouts. You look at the main one,
Mhm.
he's given up 3 runs in just 28 innings.
He's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I have to say one thing as a Yankee fan, and I've watched all of these starts. He seems so much more relaxed on the mound than he ever has been. Not just with the Yankees, but with Houston or Pittsburgh. He's laughing. During that complete game over the weekend, he was laughing and having a good time. He gave up a shot that went out to the warning trap. And it was Oswaldo Cabrera who was playing at right field that day. And Cabrera turns around and sprints to the wall and looks up like it's gone. And then ends up making the catch. And the smile on Cole's face is something you would have never seen. Last year, he would have hit his glove or gotten really mad that he nearly gave up a home run and he would have been overstressed. I don't know what's going on in Cole's life, but he is the most relaxed and calm and fun-loving that I've ever seen him. And it's absolutely working for him. And it's just crazy how good he has been pitching. Side story with fantasy baseball that most people don't care about, and I won't take too much time. I faced our buddy Richie in our baseball league this last weekend. His pitching staff only got 2 wins, but I was facing Garrett Cole. So Garrett Cole got him his only 2 wins of the week.
But that's the thing. I mean, what is in the water, as we would all say? I mean, starts the season 4-0.
Well, the Yankees need it. I mean, with Rondon hurt and Severino hurt and Schmidt being horrible and Domingo Germán needing stuff on his hands that gets Rocco Baldelli really mad to even pitch well. That was an interesting situation for the Yankees this weekend. We need it. The Yankees absolutely need it right now. All right, let's get into our power rankings. And I did not do mine last week. And you were talking about how Eric and you had the exact same top 5. Spoilers, I would not have had that top 5. But that's just me. Go ahead and give us your top 5 this week.
So for me, I'm going to actually shake things up just a little bit. And maybe it's because, and I put this in my, did I sell off on the Braves too early and say they weren't going to do it? They're on a 7-game win streak right now. So I move them up. I move them up 1 spot. I'm going to keep. I'm keeping Tampa Bay there.
Why?
Because they have still played quite well. I think the pitching
against who?
Well, you're gonna see. I stayed away from looking at the schedule. You gave me crap because I looked at the schedule.
You look at the schedule going forward.
Right.
The power rankings is about who you beat. Who have they beat? They played 1 good team in Toronto, and they split 2-2.
Yeah, so they've lost 3 of the last 4. They won today, or should be winning today. So I'm going to keep them there. I move up the Braves. I'm going to get on the Braves right now. They've done well. So I move them from 3rd to 2nd. I drop the Yankees down. I bring up. I keep Milwaukee in the same spot. And I'm going to go with the Mets.
Yeah,
I think. With what they're
that 5
doing
spot right now is tough.
Yeah. I mean, San Diego could get really interesting now that Tatis is
Mhm.
back. It'll be interesting to see.
To me, the 5th spot is Toronto. They are starting to get things going a little bit again. They split 2-2 with Tampa Bay. They're up there in record. They're 10-7, which a lot of teams are right in that mix record wise. And again, we're way too early to really focus in on the record, but I think their offense is going to get even better as the season goes on, and for them already to be 10-7 and over 500 with not playing their best, I think that's a scary team right now. I'm with you with Milwaukee. They are absolutely playing well. They've played tough teams. A bunch of their series wins have been against teams that were over 500 last year. So I'm going to have them 4. Tampa Bay's 3. And I feel nice to even put them at 3. I almost put Milwaukee ahead of Tampa Bay. And it's partially because, okay, they finally did play a tough team. And I guess they didn't split. Toronto took two of 3. For whatever reason, I thought they had a 4-game set, but it was Boston they had the 4-game set with. The teams that Tampa Bay has played this year, just the murderer's row, right? They started off with the Detroit Tigers. Are they anywhere near your top 10? How about the Washington Nationals? Are they in your top 25?
No.
How about the Oakland Athletics, a team that's going to lose 120 games this year?
No.
They sweep Boston. 4-game set. That's impressive. It's a divisional team, but we all think Boston's going to finish 5th in that league.
Mm-hmm.
They lose 2 of 3 against the only tough opponent in Toronto, and right now they're 1-1 with Cincinnati. And I do think Cincinnati's an up-and-coming team, but it's not a great team.
Right.
So Tampa Bay, again, I don't take anything away from winning 13 games in a row to start this year. You beat the teams that are on your schedule, and you build up. I mean, you have to win 90 games usually to make the postseason, at least 81. And you have to get these wins against the teams you should beat to build up that number. And Tampa Bay's off to a great start. However, it's just as what's his face on what is the Fox Sports guy who I watch all the time that I'm absolutely blanking on his name now.
Nick?
Yeah, Nick Wright always says, this is the power rankings, not the standings. It's not about the record. Tampa Bay's 3. I'm putting the Yankees 2. Really cool stat for the Yankees that could get blown up tomorrow. Do you know what the Yankees' record is when they play a game that if they lose would lose them the series this year? They have yet to lose a series. That was a hint for you. They have not lost a series this year. They went 2-2 with Minnesota. They have yet to drop a series to anyone this year. What is their record on a game that if they lost, they would lose that series?
I
8-0.
I was just saying
they always start off rough
7-1
against a team, and then they get going. Now, obviously, they lose the first one to the Angels, so now they have to win the next 2 to keep that as an undefeated streak. So we will see. But the Yankees find ways to win series, and that's what you're trying to do right now. And they've played much harder competition than the Rays, so they're 2. And Atlanta, I said you were, and you've already admitted, a little overreactionary to their downfall. They're 9-1 on the road to start the year. They've been playing extremely well, pitching, hitting, everything's going right for them. So Atlanta right now is number 1.
And you look, Danny says the Twins. What do you think about the Twins right now?
Twins are looking good.
10-6.
I've watched. Obviously, they played 4 games with the Yankees, and I watched a lot of that. They've got a lineup that's scary, and they've got a couple good pitchers. Maeda, of course, took the weekend off. He'll be able to get back into the rotation now. Their bullpen is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The Twins could be that team in the AL Central for sure. And as a Yankee fan, that's what I want. Because you know what the Yankees do to Minnesota when they meet in the playoffs? Sweep them. They sweep them.
They've got a 2-game lead over Cleveland right now. And
Yeah,
we
but
and I know we picked.
Don't care about that.
So.
All right. It's time for the sports related draft. And
I win already.
I like your idea a couple weeks ago, and we've been running with it.
Right.
Of having people that watch the show or are associated with the show or know of the show to give us ideas, and we have been doing that the last few weeks, and now it is Haley Moses's time, my girlfriend's picks. I don't know if she's listening right now, but she wanted us to do the best games played in extreme weather. So you could take that how you wanted, and we had a lot of fun with it. Spoilers, most of this is football because obviously baseball runs away from this kind of stuff, though it is weird when baseball plays in the snow like Detroit did a couple years ago. Other sports are played indoors, so they kind of get knocked off. So spoilers right now, 5 of the 6 picks are football. So that is where we will go, and you guys can vote it out from there. So I picked the topic from your guys' lists. So that means Robert gets the first pick, and he went with the obvious one.
I went with the obvious one. I think I was going to get, I'm trying to get a vote from Haley because this is the what reason, have to. I'm going to take the Ice Bowl, 1967, Packers, Cowboys.
You were about 20 years old.
Yeah. I wasn't quite there yet. I was still a few years away. I mean, mom and dad hadn't even got married yet. So it's still recorded as the coldest game to ever in the NFL.
Depending on what level you're looking at.
Yep. 15 degrees
wind
below.
chill, it's not.
15 degrees below zero with wind chill made it look like 48.
No, thank you.
It all boils down to one final play in that game. You look at it, and it's the Bart Starr sneak over the block, and Packers end up winning 21-17.
I would not have lasted during that game as a fan.
Oh, God, no.
Well, I don't know if Haley's listening, but what was it, like 40, 50 degrees, I think, when we watched the Jets at Lambeau, and it felt like 2. It felt really cold in Lambeau at a normal 40 or 50 degrees.
So when you went down, you guys got to go down on the field, right?
Not on the field, but
right
we were
the
front
edge.
row, yeah.
But I'm wondering, how warm does that field feel?
Probably not at all.
When you put your hand on it, because they do have all of those warm pipes underneath that's trying to keep the snow from melting, or melting it off. And
does Lambeau have that?
Yeah.
Oh. I figured Lambeau was too old for that stuff. But no, it was cold. It felt colder than what it was. And not just in the stadium, just in that area. Like Wisconsin cold is different than Lewiston, Idaho cold. But by far, it was like 40, 50 degrees there. We came home to like 30 degrees, and it was much warmer than what it felt like over in Wisconsin. All right, so you took the Ice Bowl. So I am going to go with the Fog Bowl. This happened December 31st, 1988, between Chicago and Philadelphia. Looked like a normal, typical game early on. Then the fog starts coming in the second quarter. Go to halftime, come back, and you can't see anything. Now, I mean, broadcast in 1988, you're not going to see much anyways because, the TV broadcasts weren't fantastic. But visibility got as low as 15 to 20 degrees. I guarantee you if this happened today, they are delaying the start of the second half until the fog goes away. I know from doing the research for this draft that New England had a game a couple of years ago that NBC just had to use the Skycam because their cameras up near the press box, the fog was too much for them to see, and they went that far. But even the Skycam would have had issues in this Fog Bowl. Still crazy that what was it? Randall Cunningham went over 400 yards in the game passing. You got to think a lot of those were dump offs. And be interesting to throw it on the left side of the field, and people on the right side of the field had no idea what was happening, or the people on the sidelines are like, is the play done? What? So it'd be really interesting to see. You got to think a lot of holding happened in this game because the referees weren't going to be able to see it at all. Chicago ends up winning that game 20-12. It's just seeing the pictures of that game is insane.
I remember seeing highlights of that game because I would have been a freshman right about that time. And, there was only certain games that ever got played back in the day on CBS. And that was a CBS day because Chicago was played on the NFC side. So I remember watching the second half, and they kept always peering up towards the pillars that are at the top of the midway, and looking in there. So I remember seeing those.
Crazy. All right. Second round, sir.
All right. I went with this one just because this game changed how rules in the NFL happen.
Because of the snow.
because of the snow.
No, it's not true.
Because Tom Brady got his way.
Sure.
Tom Brady cost the Oakland Raiders the chance of making it to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with the tuck rule. 2001 AFC divisional game up in Foxborough, 25. It was a little bit warmer, 25 degrees, but they had about 4 inches of snow that dumped down
That's nothing.
on that game. But this game is known for, Oakland was up. Were they Oakland or were they LA? I think they were still Oakland then. I had to think about that.
Oakland.
So, 4 inches of snow drops down. Second half gets there. Oakland's up 13-10, and Tom Brady, you see him.
The arm was moving forward. Incomplete pass.
Does not look like it's going forward. Ball gets knocked out. Goes under
going
review.
Forward. It went all the way forward. It went all the way through
and
forward.
He brings it back into his body. It looks like it brings it back into his body.
He was tucking it in.
And, so they go back to review. They review it. And it gets overturned as an
none of that was weather related.
So, now you have rule number 3, section 22, article 2.
Don't play a game in the snow.
So,
right?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? This is why it's a horrible weather game.
What's funny is you listen to both Tom Brady and Charles Woodson still to this day
absolutely.
talk about it.
100%. The more impressive thing was Vinatieri kicking in that mess.
That was a mess.
So that was a more impressive part of that game. But I'm going to go one better for you with my second pick.
Are you sure it's one better?
Oh, probably 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times better. How about the Blizzard Bowl in 2013? By the way,
talked about that.
By the way, there are too many games called the Snow Bowl. You're picking one that's called the Snow Bowl. It should never be referenced as a Snow Bowl. Ever. And we'll get into it when we get to your pick. This was also called the Snow Bowl. I don't know what Denny is sending us. I am really some disco
Denny's going to vote for
that
me.
That is not weather related, sir. Disco is not weather.
I know Denny is going to vote for me because
not weather, but hazard. There you go.
There you go.
But anyways, this is some people call it the Snow Bowl, but there's a lot of Snow Bowls. It's also called the Blizzard Bowl. Happened in 2013 between the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. They had 8 inches of snow on the field at game time, and it just got worse and it got worse
in Philly,
to the point
right?
that I believe it was in Philadelphia because
right.
the Lions play indoors,
right?
So it's in Philadelphia. This would be stupid if it was played in Detroit. Though I guess
there was some revamping, but I don't remember when.
I know the snow hit Minnesota so much that their stadium imploded.
Yeah,
but that didn't count because they pushed that game or they moved that game. There's only one extra point even attempted. No field goals, nothing, because you could not even at all. Vinatieri would have had no chance to even have a kick in this game. LaShawn McCoy in that one set the Eagles record with 217 rushing yards because everyone's slipping and sliding and everywhere. Jeremy Ross, same reason why, had a punt and kickoff return for a touchdown for the Lions. But I only remember this game for one iconic shot. And that's Calvin Johnson making a catch, getting tackled, and then standing up, just face mask completely covered in snow. It completely just took over his face. Just a very cool scene there. Eagles ended up winning at 34-20, but who cares because it's just crazy snow and a lot of fun. That is my second pick. The Blizzard Bowl. Now you get to the lamest Snow Bowl of all time.
No, it's not. I guarantee you it's not the lamest because if you're a local person, you know how much this game means to people. So I know Eric. Yes,
this
weather.
Is the weather games.
It was weather.
How much weather happened in this weather game?
It was 22 mile an hour winds in an open-ended field. I remember because I almost went to this game. I literally almost went to this game, and I stayed because of how bad the weather was and me having to make
how
the
much
drive.
Snow hit the ground?
4 inches.
You wrote 2.
4 inches the night before.
That's not the
game. Night before.
That's cleared out.
That was pushed off the field.
Yeah.
They cleared it. Another 2 inches drop. But I'm going to take the 1992 Apple Cup. And that game, you end up knowing about this game because it was the pass from Drew Bledsoe.
Mm-hmm.
And you see him finally get standing at the 50-yard line, makes a long 56-yard pass into the end zone to Philip Bobo, who never made it anywhere after that. But Philip Bobo, and you see him slide through, and they knock off the Huskies, who were going to the Rose Bowl that year, and so big win. Cougars get
That was a good
bowl
win.
shot, and
Congrats. In a normal football
it's not
game.
normal.
2 inches of snow. 2.
Tell me
That
how
happens
many
15 times a year in the NFL. 50 times in NCAA.
No,
Always.
if you're a local
Snow
person,
everywhere.
you know the 92 Apple Cup.
Not because of the weather, because of the wind. That's it. Period. So I wanted to get away from football. We've had enough football. Could have went with the AFC Championship game between the Chargers and whoever it was. I forget because I didn't put it down. They ended up being like minus 50 something wind chill, which is the coldest NFL game based off wind chill. I could have went that route. There are some crazy rain games where I remember how many like a Monday Night Football game where like there's just rivers coming down the stadiums. I thought about going that route. The Monday Night Football game where it rained so much that the punt stuck in the ground like it was a golf shot.
I remember that one.
Well, that was who was the old HBO guy? Dennis Miller was on the call for those games, which was insane. I thought about going that route, but I decided to go with golf. Yeah, there you go. Chargers Bengals was the one I almost went with, but I went back and I just looked up worst weather for golf because spoilers, this was the reason why I picked this one was because of golf. The Masters was a little over a week ago and the wind got so crazy that a tree fell down. All right. Well, this one was even crazier, obviously a bit before our time. But
I was just saying, did you watch it?
No, I don't even know if there's
How do you know
highlights
this?
of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How do you know?
Some of the reports from this game, that is a lot of words. The storm game. There you go. 80 to 90 mile an hour winds. Goodness. That's a crazy baseball game. Some of the reports from this game, I don't believe. We'll get to it in a second. But the 1973 John Player Classic at Turnberry, in Scotland. And we run through this 4-day event. First round, decent weather. People are shooting well. 2 players shoot 66. It's just your normal tournament, right?
All right.
Now the second round, 40 degrees. We've all played in cold weather in golf, and that's not fun. 40 mile an hour winds that had gusts to what were claimed to be 100 miles an hour.
We're talking 1973.
Do I believe any of that? Probably not. But crazy, crazy winds. Writers, we're talking about marquees just getting sent out to sea, different billboards and stuff that weren't nailed down. Because if you've ever seen Turnberry, and I only really have in video game form, but it's right on the coast.
Right.
So signs are flying out to sea. All the tents for all the media and stuff is just getting blown all over the place and or taken down.
Oh, come on, Eric. Really?
Yes.
Did you load it up? Did you watch Bobo? Come on.
I can't. No, he's actually siding with you because this is normal Scotland weather. But it gets crazier. So the third round happens, and you get your mix of the cold weather and the gusts of 40, 50, 60 mile an hour winds and the rain that happens. Again, it's Scotland, so it's raining all the time. But how about 2 different hailstorms? It's hailing while they're trying to golf. One hailstorm halts the play for 30 minutes, and they don't halt anything over there, ever. They flew through whatever. Johnny Miller, who was leading after the first round, shoots an 81. Arnold Palmer, one of the greatest golfers of all time. Chichi Rodriguez, one of the more
he was fun
characteristic golfers of all time. They both shoot 80. Players are out there in wool gloves and multiple layers of clothing trying to golf through this stuff. Then the final round gets a little better where it's only brutally cold, as some writer put it, and 45 mile an hour winds. Where Charles Coody, I've never heard of this man. I have no idea who he is. Shoots a 74 in round 2. Shot a 70 in round 3. Shoots a 77 in this final round to finish 5 over par and win by 3 on the PGA Tour. And this is not like U.S. Open crazy difficulty where if you miss the fairway, then you're hitting out of 10 inches of grass. Just the weather absolutely obliterated these people. So that is
Here's my question.
final pick. Yeah.
We don't have proof of this. I guarantee you none of this exists.
None of it exists.
None of this exists.
Stop it.
You cannot prove anything. Tell me, is Arnold Palmer or Chichi Rodriguez still alive to talk about it?
I watched interviews with them talking about it.
I see nothing that's going to defend those wins.
Are you trying to say Babe Ruth never existed? Because we weren't alive to watch it happen? Stop it. I almost went, but I don't think the weather was that bad. It was just that weird situation with what 91 or 92 Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins, where the Leon Lett play happened on Thanksgiving, just because it's a turf field in Dallas of all places, and there's snow on the field because they have that hole in the old stadium. So I almost went that route, but I wanted to get away from football. So there you go. Let us know who wins. Robert went Ice Bowl, the Tuck Rule game, and the Snow Bowl of the 1992 Apple Cup. Just don't call it the Snow Bowl. Just stop. I went with the Fog Bowl, the Blizzard Bowl, and then this crazy tournament where Scottish people are even saying it was the craziest tournament they've ever seen.
Where the wind blows all the time.
Yes, but not to this degree. The Scottish players were even going, holy cow. And again, like Eric said, this normal weather in Scotland's crazy. And even they were going,
this is
they
normal.
weren't even prepared for this. The Scottish probably had all these things nailed down, and the winds went, nah.
Yeah. No.
Nah. It's not like Augusta where a little gust of wind knocks down their tree because they're not ready for it.
That was so crazy seeing that.
So let us know what happens there. Hey, stock NBA and some NHL. Again, the playoffs have started. Snow Classical. What is even that? I don't even know what that is. I'm going to guess it's a soccer game.
I'm still trying to load up the Denny Grubb one that you sent us.
Stop trying to destroy your internet, sir. So Eric goes with you, which I rescind my vote, and Robert, you win last week. I'm that petty. NBA right now, Celtics are now up 2-0. They beat the Hawks today, 119-106. The Knicks lose to the Cavaliers, 107-90. So that series is tied at 1. And right now, the Clippers over the Suns, 23-22. A little over a minute to go in the first quarter. NHL, the Rangers are up they won 5-1 over the Devils. The Lightning scored 7 goals, beat the Maple Leafs 7-3. Oh, yeah. And why are these always in the wrong spot? There we go.
I know. Here we go.
Release the Kraken!
The Kraken lead the Avalanche 1-0 in their first ever playoff game. Again, I'll probably watch the end of that game when I get home. And the Jets and Golden Knights are scoreless through 1 period. Oh, yeah, the pitcher that survived the lightning strike. I kind of remember that. Still need a vote from Denny, but I do believe that. Yeah, I figured it was soccer.
Denny's going to go with the Apple Cup because he doesn't even know anything about Scotland either. Scotland.
And the Apple Cup has no idea what snow is. About 2 inches of snow. Get out of here. Get out. All right. Let's talk real quickly about Draymond Green yesterday. You watched the video before the show. I turned on this game slightly after this Green stuff happened, but I went back and watched the highlights. So basically, Sabonis grabs Green's ankle or kind of hugs it. I guess he doesn't really grab it with his hands. While he goes down after trying to get a rebound, Green decides to stomp on Sabonis to get his foot free. He ends up being ejected from the game. Sabonis receives a technical. It does not look like Green is going to get suspended for any other games in the playoffs. But the thing that really bugged me was the way Green acted after the play. Just really antagonizing the fans and being a complete heel, which I like in wrestling, but he's just an idiot out there on the court. What did you think?
Well, just watching it, I've got it replaying right now. I think the biggest thing, you see Sabonis kind of wrap Green's leg a little bit, but to watch Green basically stomp and then jump up on him.
So the jump, I don't think he jumps on him.
I think he's lifting up off of him is what it looks like.
He is trying to get off. I will say this real quick. I do say stomp. But I have seen this replay a lot of times. It is the weakest stomp. It is the most WWE stomp I've ever seen. Sabonis, who they were checking for rib injuries, has 0 injuries. Stop it. I don't think he put a lot of weight behind that stomp, but he was trying to get away and send a message at the same time. And the whole hop off was really him hopping from his other foot and trying to keep his weight off of it. But it's still a stupid move by a stupid player. I cannot stand Draymond Green anymore. He is a less talented Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that.
And the fact that some people are saying Draymond Green's a future Hall of Famer, I don't watch the NBA, but stop it.
Yeah, well, after you said that was the first, and I watched it, that was the first player I thought of was actually Bill Laimbeer and Dennis Rodman, and so it's crazy. So it looks like I have one.
You're gonna win, but not because of the Apple Cup, sir.
But it also includes Haley's vote because Haley's going to go with the Ice Bowl. So I win.
She doesn't even know what the Ice Bowl is.
If she's a Packer, if she's a Packer fan, she knows it.
But it doesn't even matter because you are going to get the win, and that is okay.
Put the dub up there,
but not because of the Apple Cup. Not because of the Apple Cup.
Go Cougs! I saw so many Cougar stuff this weekend. I wore a Cougar hat this weekend up.
Why? Because you're excited for them to win 4 games this year.
And I had so many people go Cougs. It didn't matter where I was at in the building. It was you could hear it.
I know. I can't with you people.
Yeah,
of course I know what the Ice Bowl is. Man, all right, I got played.
You might be sleeping on the couch after that one.
That's okay. I usually end up on a couch anyways for other reasons. So for getting this one incorrect, it's fine. It's totally fine. Should Draymond Green be suspended? What do you think? I
would think he probably suspended for a couple of games. I don't know how many.
That's too many.
I think
I don't think he should, but he's just a absolute dumb. But that's me or not. I will say though, I have watched more NBA basketballs than I was expecting early on in this first round. Again, I said at the beginning of the show, a lot of it's because Sacramento's fans are absolutely fantastic, and they're really into it. Go watch some of the highlights of those 2 games. But I think I'm not going to sit down and watch a full game by any means, but I do think that now that we are into the playoffs and the games actually matter and people are actually trying to play defense and we're going to get the actual, stars of the game playing every game, I might get into it a little bit. But I think too. He might. He might. I don't think he will, but we will see. I also still hate the fact that the Knicks played game 1 on Saturday. They're playing game 2 today on Tuesday. There's too much break in between this stuff. It should be game, day off, game. And then if you want to take 2 days off, 1 for travel, 1 for rest, I'm cool with that. We don't have to play back-to-backs in the playoffs. But the playoffs take 3 months. We spread this out far too much. It's ridiculous. But we'll keep you up to date on how all of that is going. Let's get into LCSC sports. Baseball did get the sweep of Eastern Oregon, which they should have done. However, 2 of the games were far too close for our liking. They win on Saturday 14-1, which was great, but then 15-4. Or excuse me, 15-14. Let me say it correctly. 15-14 to get the sweep on Saturday. I want to say they scored 4 runs in the top of the 9th, gave them all back in the bottom of the 9th, and Eastern Oregon had runners on at that point. Then on Sunday, they win the first game 5-4. That was a good back and forth game. Listen to a little bit of that. And then they crush them in that last game 24-3 in just 7 innings. LC does hit 16 home runs over the weekend, which their bats have been ice cold lately. So hopefully this will spark them for the rest of the way forward. I do think their pitching staff is fantastic. But with that said, even with this sweep, they're still 4th in the Cascade Conference, which is big because only the top 4 teams make the conference tournament.
Right.
And now they are ahead of College of Idaho. LC is off this weekend. And obviously the other 6 teams are into it. We're winding down quickly. I believe LC has 4 games left, right? They have one more series. So a big one this weekend will be Oregon Tech hosting British Columbia, those who basically are fighting it out for who will host the Cascade Conference tournament. Bushnell will take on College of Idaho, which could knock out the Yotes or make life difficult for LC. And then the 2 bottom feeders, Eastern Oregon and Corbin, are going at it. Corbin is up there a little bit, but I don't think they have any chance of being in the top 4.
They have 5 games remaining. They've got a non-conference one in Ellensburg on Wednesday, and then they play at Bushnell 4 games.
And that's a big one. And Bushnell, again, 3rd in the conference. You got to win 3 of 4 there, I think, to make sure you can make the Cascade Conference tournament, at least try to get into a run. I mean, they're guaranteed to be in the opening round, and that'll be here in Lewiston, but it would be embarrassing to not even make this conference tournament and then host the opening round. Again, the likelihood that we're going to have the NAIA World Series here in Lewiston, Idaho without the Warriors for the first time is
a possibility.
Very, very possible. I'm hoping they get things turned around and they make a run. There's enough talent on that team to do so.
Tons of talent, yeah.
But they've got to put the talent on the field and they've got to put in the work. And we'll see what they're able to do. They cannot relax. They can't go, oh, we won 4 games. We swept Eastern Oregon and we have the week off. Let's just relax going into the final week. No, this is when you really need to put in that time and the effort and really push forward. So we will see.
I was just looking out the window to see if the lights were on, if they were over there practicing.
Hopefully they are. Some other LCSC sports. Warrior athletes earned 42 spring academic all-conference honors this week. So congratulations to them. Track and field had 2 different events this weekend. During the Whitworth Twilight event on Thursday, 19 different Warriors set personal bests. We're not going to list all 19. You can see those on lcwarriors.com. But I will highlight the 2 relay teams that set school records. Jedediah Barnaby, Jordan Castillo, London Kirk, and Justin Krabanoft set the school's 4x100 meter record. And then Kirk and Krabanoff also teamed up with Ike Hopper and Carter Gordon to set the school's record in the 4x400. So congratulations to those runners. And then 2 more records fell at the Northwest Nazarene Invite on Saturday, where Ike Hopper broke the 400-meter hurdles record here at LC, and then Trenton Johnson broke his own record in the triple jump. Again, we had mentioned earlier, tennis is done with the team events now as they start to wrap up their season. The men finish 11 and 13. They split over the weekend. They will now compete in the NAIA unaffiliated group championships from Thursday to Saturday. The women are in the Red River Conference now, but the men still are not in a conference. And the women will host the Highland Community College on Friday. And again, an event that does not go towards team records, but can help out with individual records. Let's get to some high school stuff, and let's start with Clarkston.
Yeah, we'll start. Let's talk the softball really quick. The Clarkston girls defeated West Valley in an early contest this past week, 7-6, and then Moscow has their way with the Bantams 10-0. And then I shared this with you, and we talked about something's got to happen with this team out of Spokane, out of Rogers.
I hate to be that guy, but
the Bantams sweep the doubleheader Saturday up in Rogers, up in Spokane. Overall, win both games. They score 50 runs and gave up just 5 runs. And I talked with Brooke Blades. One of the players. She comes to the school on a daily basis. She said the 5 runs were given up by their freshman pitcher in the 4th inning of that ball game. So a little rough there, but in the 5th inning, excuse me. But yeah, 50 runs. That's crazy. So
yeah, I don't mean to beat on a high school team, but Rogers does not need to be in that level.
Exactly.
I mean, I know it's based on enrollment, but Rogers for years.
Leah Copeland
rough.
Leah Copeland has a huge day, sends up with 7 hits, a home run, 2 triples on that day.
Mhm.
Tonight they finished just as we were going live. They lost to Shadle Park tonight, 9-3. So now Clarkson 5-4 on the season, 3-1 in league play. Let's turn our attentions to the boys' side. Clarkson Bantams, number 1 2A team for the 3rd straight week in a row in WIAA. They are now 10-0, 6-0 in league play. They were able to get a complete game from Hayden Line against West Valley, and then defeated Kellogg on Friday 10-0, and then ended up winning a doubleheader against Rogers. So they host tomorrow against Shadle Park, and then they are home in against East Valley on Saturday.
On the Lewiston side, they had a very, very rough weekend up at Lake City. The softball team lost both of their games. First one 9-8, second one 9-3. So they are now 6-8 overall, but 5-3 in league play. But those were 2 tough losses against a very tough Lake City team. They will host Sandpoint they're at Sandpoint on Saturday. And then I put there since Lakeland, I put next Tuesday at Tuesday, but God. Next Tuesday, they are at Lakeland. Baseball has really been struggling. They've now lost 5 in a row. They're 7-9 overall, and now 3-7 in league play, which is starting to get them basically set to be the 4th seed in the conference tournament. Doesn't mean they're out of it by any means, but it means that they're going to not be able to play at home at all for this tournament, and they're going to have to get a few upsets along the way. Lake City just ran right through them, won 9-3 and then 10-0. Lewiston will be back in action on Saturday at home against Sandpoint. That'll start at noon. And again, the reason why our show next week will start a bit late, be Senior Day against Lakeland, doubleheader starting at 2 p.m. Those will be your final home games for Lewiston, because again, they're not going to host anything come conference or tournament time. And they made state last year, and they're going to have to go on quite the run to be able to make it this upcoming year. And that'll bring us to our 3rd topic of the show, just real quick, because we run long as we always do, and we always give ourselves too much to talk about. But I know you and Eric did not talk about this, which makes sense because Eric's not from around here. But reports came out from the latest meetings about a week and a half ago down in southern Idaho, as all of the Idaho sports commissions get together and look at different rule changes that they want to implement.
Shot clock.
Next year.
Yes.
That is happening. Thankfully, they were installing this year. They will be going next year. But the big one, well, there's 2 big ones. So in some of the sports, football is excluded, baseball is excluded because they were already kind of set. But sports like basketball and soccer and volleyball, they are looking at expanding the state tournament, which is kind of what Washington does right now. So if you win your league, which most leagues have 5 teams in it and stuff, they're all over the place. But if you win your district, then if you're one of the top 4 teams from the 5 district winners, then you're automatically headed off to the final site at state. Everyone else, including some extra teams that would not have been part of this, would get thrown into the state play-in games, which we see a lot from Washington schools, where you get the crossover games is what Washington calls them.
I hate them.
So I'm interested to see if that happens. Right now, all these sports just have one crossover game. Lewiston was in the crossover game or the state play-in game and ended up losing that down in Grangeville. So I'm excited to see possibly more expansion, though they're trying to get it where the whole idea of this and why I like it so much is because the way Idaho is set up, especially in the higher levels, is like right now in 5A in the state of Idaho, you have 4 teams in the north. That's one division. And then there's 4 teams in eastern Idaho, like 4 or 5 teams are in their own little division. And then there's like 12 teams in the Boise area. I don't know why they don't just split those 2 up into 2 different ones, but everyone is so spread out. And the way it's set up right now is 1 is guaranteed from the north, 1 is guaranteed from the east. What is it? 4 are guaranteed from the central Idaho division. So that's 6. And then you have two state play-in games where the two Boise area teams will take on one team from the east and one team from the north, and that locks it in. So you could have 6 from that district get in and only 1 from the other 2 from the state play-in. So they're trying to get more state play-in games to give more leagues chances to get multiple teams in. I like it. They need to make some more tweaking, but I like it. But the one that really hits Lewiston is the fact that they are thinking about taking on the league level format that Oregon does. Because right now, Idaho has 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, and then you have your 2 1As, Division 1 and Division 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now they just want to go 1 through 6. But with that, they would change the enrollment requirements. And this is the key. With those enrollment requirements, there are 4 teams right now in Lewiston's league, right? Lake City, Coeur d'Alene, and Post Falls. All 3 of those teams would move to 6A. Lewiston would stay in 5A based on their enrollment, and they would join the league with Moscow, Lakeland, and Sandpoint. There would be one of just 2 teams that are currently in 5A that would not move up to 6A based on the enrollment requirements that they have set in this option. So my question to you is, how big would that be for Lewiston to basically drop down a league in all sports?
It's going to be huge. It'll get them almost, I don't want to say guaranteed, but almost a guaranteed quarterfinals, I would think, for most every one of them, especially in a 4A.
And I'm with Denny. I think level-wise, what the growth that's been going on in Coeur d'Alene has been a lot.
Right.
And they just have more amenities and more students to pick from. And now we've kind of gotten to that point, which is weird in the state of Idaho, where high schools are recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Coeur d'Alene area is doing it a lot. That Hawaii team that was built last year ended up with multiple state championships. They basically are a big recruitment school down there, and Lewiston just cannot keep up. Lewiston's population is not going up. Neither is Moscow. So it'll be interesting for them to stay at 5A and play with some smaller schools. So then I think they would kind of be the top dog in the lower levels and maybe can start winning some state titles and stuff. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, none of this has been passed yet. And I have been told by Lewiston principal Kevin Driscoll that if it does pass, it will not affect the upcoming year, but would take place in the 2024-25 season at the earliest. But those are the rumors going around and the stuff that's been talked about in these meetings. I think it'd be really, really good for Lewiston to drop down and, finally be able to compete for some of these state titles.
I think that it's the best thing that could happen for them right now. So especially within a season, things are changing. So
yeah, and like Danny said, Boise's area has just been ridiculous.
It's the same with what we deal with bowling up here,
Yeah.
So,
which is why all the tournaments end up down there.
Down there. Yep.
PBA is going through their PBA World Series of bowling. They had all the USA versus the world, and I think the world just destroyed us.
They did 12-2.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. They had the Cheetah Championship yesterday, and congrats to EJ Tackett for winning that one. Quick note on the first game on Cheetah, where AJ Johnson threw 3 gutter balls in one game, a PBA record
in the first 5 frames.
In the first 5 frames, yes. 3 gutter balls in the first 5 frames, and he won his match because Jacob Buttriff apparently decided to try new shoes for the first time and ended up fouling twice and nearly fouled more than that. It wasn't the prettiest game. And this is where Haley asked me while we were watching this, why aren't you on the PBA tour? And I simply told her, because AJ Johnson threw 3 gutter balls, Buttriff fouled twice, and they still shot 208 and 203 on a really hard
It's the shortest pattern that they run, and it's just crazy to watch. And how they were having to play the lanes, and you watch the rookie that came in.
No, stop it, Eric. Eastern Oregon is not going to combine with Idaho. That stupid proposal that's been going around for years will never happen. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
But watching what that Joseph Grondin was doing he was the only one that went outside to
Mhm.
start playing in basketball shoes. Did you watch that? He
Yeah.
wasn't no bowling shoes.
Mhm.
Was using basketball shoes.
He was a very interesting character
Yes,
out there
groove into the music in between the
for
balls.
sure. He definitely would have shot it like I probably would have tried to
I would've
attack that.
too.
I don't have the rev rate to play like what AJ Johnson and EJ Tackett would be. Mine would be straight up, just trying to throw it up 10 and throwing it with more oomph to try to keep it out there. Then you have smashed a record. It was crazy to watch.
They were talking, Randy Peterson
Mhm.
and Dave Ryan were talking about this was the most gutter balls in
Yeah.
a game, single game that they'd ever seen.
Yeah, you see it one here.
And then
EJ Tackett had 8 in the qualifiers because he throws such a crazy hook.
And
But,
then you look at the final game.
yeah, BJ Moore
first ball out.
right in the gutter. He really, really struggled.
Yeah, I felt bad for him.
Scorpion Championship is concluded. Neither of us have seen the results. I know who's in the finals, but I don't know who has won. The Shark Championship is tomorrow, and then they'll have the whole PBA World Championship finals. The fact that EJ Tackett has bowled like 60 games over the last week is insane. Like people that did not qualify for any final shot 50 games this week to try to qualify for all these different finals.
And he's qualified in a few of them.
Yeah,
so.
EJ Tackett has been ridiculous. Again, I get to bowl my first PBA regional in July. I only have to bowl 7 games, and then I won't make the finals, so I don't have to worry about the other part. I'm just very curious what PBA pros are going to end up going there.
I'm going to road trip it. I might take my stuff with me, but no. I'll road trip up.
You don't need to take your stuff, but it'll be locked in by then.
They normally do pro-ams though. Too,
Yeah, the pro-am will be on Friday.
So that'd be fun
with the practice and stuff. We play on a really long pattern, the exact opposite of the Cheetah Championship. So I'm still very curious if that's going to play for or against my game. I think a long pattern might work for my game, and I'm interested. A couple buddies and I are going to have already signed up and are ready to go for that tournament. Again, I only guarantee a top 50 because they only allow 50, and that's what I'm going for.
There you go.
Aussie rules football. We only have 4 minutes left in the show, so we don't have to talk about Hawthorn completely throwing up their game. GWS beats Hawthorn 77-75 in a game that Hawthorn led the entire second half.
Yeah.
And they give up the mark of the year.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right now.
Why not? And an easy goal from there, and GWS takes the lead. Hawthorn has a great chance to have a comeback. They fumble the ball all over the place, still get a good kickoff, and the camera angle was brutal. And a GWS player got a finger on it, and the 6-point goal turned into a 1-point behind, and Hawks lose by 2. And the wooden spoon looks more and more likely at this point.
Yeah, and Eric also says, or the Dogs. We won't have to talk about them. They do lose 70-56 Port Adelaide.
Geelong starting to turn things around. They now won
good.
2 in a row. Their last 6 quarters have looked really good. The 10 goals, I'm sure you guys talked about last week. 10-goal third quarter against the Hawks last week. Holy Toledo.
Yep, we talked about it.
That was brutal as a Hawks fan. It's been a bad 2 weeks for
Big
sure.
climb for Geelong to move up from, I think they were 13 or 14 to 10th now. So we're making our way up in the top 8.
Games this week. Fremantle will take on Western on Friday at 3:10 a.m. If you want to record it, Geelong versus Sydney in the rematch of last year's grand final. How do you have Orioles final score? No, I do not. I've forgotten from an hour ago, sir. Does Geelong destroy Sydney like they did last year?
The way that we've played the last 6, maybe I think it's going to be a lot closer. Sydney has played a little bit better, so they're in the top 5 right now.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good game.
And Hawthorn once again has a great time for me to watch. 8:10 p.m.
Awesome time.
I don't want to. I really just don't want to.
Dude, we're down to 10 days for you to see your first MMA fight.
We're almost there. Danny found it. The final is still 1-0. It has not changed. They have not overturned anything.
Clearwater Combat coming up. Our buddies are going to be fighting Ryan McElroy and all those guys. So look excited for that next Saturday. So
next Saturday, I would say we should try to get people on to preview that on Tuesday. Maybe we still
You're
will,
tough.
but with the issue of when we will start,
Yeah.
we may not bug them.
Yeah.
We've had them on multiple times. Maybe we'll get them on after, and we'll talk about that. Anything super special happen in golf? You get 10 seconds.
You know, it was a fun tournament watching the final about 8 holes. It was a 4-man race, but Matt Fitzpatrick ends up winning in the 3rd playoff hole.
Oh yeah, I did see that where Spieth missed 2 putts by half an inch.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Crazy finish. Great. Felt bad for Joel. Joel was in 5th place at 5 under on Thursday, shoots 4 over on Friday, and misses the cut by 1 stroke. So, but he will be playing next week. This week.
Okay, you're way past your 10 seconds.
I know. In New Orleans at the Zurich Classic with Denny McCarthy. Tee time 10:57.
Martinsville happened. Kyle Larson ended up winning, though Hendrick was looking terrible for the first 2 stages, but Larson gets the win. It was nice to see Chase Elliott come back. He ends up finishing 10th after he broke his leg in a snowboarding accident. Talladega is next week. I have to say, just the care for NASCAR right now is kind of like the NBA regular season. Just nobody is into it, and I just think it's because of the way they have made the regular season not matter.
Right. I agree 100%.
You did put up the Don's GoFundMe page on our R&R Sports Report. So again, if you are able to, definitely donate to the fund out there for Don Walden's family. And again, if you are just joining us, he did pass away on Saturday at the age of 50. And it has definitely kind of rocked my world and the people that I'm around in the sports community. And his thoughts, of course, go out to his family and everyone at the Tribune, going through all of those emotions and trying to continue working and continue to get the paper out while dealing with all of that. Our thoughts are definitely out to all of you for sure. Again, next week we will start most likely an hour late because I have a doubleheader that starts at 2 p.m. And the last time we had that, we started an hour late. So that'll be our goal. 7 p.m. Pacific time next Tuesday will be our start time. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Our 130th edition of the R&R Sports Report. But we're done for now. So that's Robert Hagan. I'm Randy Isbell. This is the R&R Sports Report right here on the LCWR. But for now, we are out.